You may remember the last local elections when we covered that because, oh boy, the the fallout of the last local elections were delicious. The coping from Conservatives who narrowly managed to hold on to like one seat was delicious in many, many ways. And yet we have an upcoming local election, and already local Tories are scrambling. They don't know what's going on because now you're getting these bizarre three factions of you're getting local Tory parties and these local councillors and feeling completely abandoned, mayoral candidates saying we're barely getting any support unless you're Andy Street or uh Ben Houchen. They're the only ones who seem to have actually got any kind of support in the upcoming local election so far. You've then got the actual parliamentary MP party who is rapidly tearing each other apart in ridiculous infighting and civil wars. And now, recently this weekend, we've learned from inside sources saying that they are trying to get Rishi Sunak to go for an earlier general election rather than leave it later, because he apparently is so puzzled and can't believe that he's done all these different things and yet none of it is having an effect. So there is now panic from number 10, panic in the Tory party, and even panic at the local level. And that is what we are going to look at today. This panic at the local elections and the panic of the local Tory candidates, because this is being treated, by all accounts, as a general election. They are saying if this goes bad for us, and I've said it before, all bets are off as to when there might be a local election, because oh boy, there probably is going to be a leadership challenge. We don't know how that would go, but win or lose, Rishi Sunak would be toast. That would cause further chaos, and it would just spiral and spiral and spiral. And then we get a general election, and we can be finally rid of them after so long. Finally. Maybe we'd have some sort of sensible, decent government and people who sort of know what they're doing. This is why I've talked about say what you all about David Cameron, but from all reports, having someone who seems to know what they're doing and actually being a good minister just puts the rest of the cabinet to complete shame. So we're going to have a look at what's going on at the local level today. So before we do go into this, please do remember to click on the local, click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons. This is a local channel for local people. So yes, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support. Like I say, there's stuff down below. There's the Patreon page, the Buy Me Coffee link, the YouTube thank you button, and of course there's the Pony Club down below as well. That all helps support our channel. So thank you very much to everyone who does help and support that. And of course, off we go over today's story. So I love the title of this. Like the Somme without the generals, the Tories' nerve grows as local elections loom. So, local elections on May the 2nd have long been regarded as a moment of high peril for Rishi Sunak, and with the results likely to anticipate his party's fate at the next election. My colleagues are feeling very restless, admits one moderate Tory MP. Rishi needs to show us that the general election isn't already lost. If we lose the mayoralties in May, then I'm afraid we could be on course for a total wipeout. It could be very dangerous for him. Currently, those mayoralties very, very much in play. Very, very much in play. Currently, at the moment, from what we've seen of voting intentions, do seem to be very, very neck and neck. We'll see how the upcoming weeks go. We'll see if the The Teesside and the sort of all the sort of corruption allegations do hurt Ben Houchen coming forward. This is certainly something that the Labour candidates are sort of pushing on this front. We had Rachel Reeves come out and say, "Hey, we're going to send in the National Audit Office to have a look at what's going on here." So, regardless, win or lose at the local mayoralty, of course, you'd prefer it sooner rather than later. There is going to be an investigation to find out what's going on here, and it's not going to go very well, I think, considering we already had that report previously. But back to it. So the Tories are already priced into heavy losses in the council elections, with expert predicting that they could face in as many as half of the contested seats. Loyalists do point out that the last time this was fought in 2021, when a still relatively popular Boris Johnson was number 10 and the government had not yet been rocketed by the Partygate scandal or even Liz Truss's emergency budget. The party was also 10 points ahead of Labour at that time in the national polls, but they are now 20 points behind. Such a high watermark means that 4 years on, the Conservative losses are inevitable. But one senior Tory suggests that council losses, especially in the parts of the country such as Milton Keynes, Dudley, and Thurrock, where swing voters may influence the general election result, could push some Tory MPs over the edge. And oh boy, that is what we are going to look for. Because remember, when the Tories won in 2019, their big sort of stance, these whole new Red Wall MPs were like, haha, finally, we have taken these seats away, this seat away from Labour. And now at the upcoming local election, we are going to sort of sweep away all these Labour councils as well. And finally, really show you what true Conservative governance looks like. Again, that's what they were saying in 2019. How times have changed. But what happened at that following local election? Well, they managed to win like 1 or 2 seats. They didn't really change sort of council hands. It didn't happen. It was a big, big upset. And time again, when they've tried at these local elections since then, they've constantly failed to take these councils or those local council seats. So if this happens and you see these council seats flip, this is going to cause big problems for those Tory MPs who are in those constituencies. And oh boy, you are going to see a lot of panicked Tories regardless of the results tomorrow. Some results are going to be more important than others, than we say. So he continues. So you have your constituency chair is on the phone telling you that your local association has been wiped out. It's been difficult to defend, priced in, they said. MPs aren't on the battlefield this time. It's like the Somme without the generals. And that's it. You get these local associations that have refused to turn out because they feel that they've been left. You know, they know that they're in for a big defeat. So, like, yeah, we're just going to price this in. So, once again, they're trying to manage defeat. You know, oh, we lost this many, but it's fine. Anyway, yeah. While Sunak supporters do appear resigned to losing over 500 council seats, that's a lot. That is a lot to lose. They do bristle at the prospect of defeat in the metro mayoralties of West Midlands and Tees Valley. We hope that Andy Street and Ben Houchen will be okay, says one unusual loyal Tory MP. But their fate will be decided if it's just a bad night for Rishi or a catastrophic one. If either of them lose, it will leave us feeling very anxious about what the next general election will bring. So this is it. So long as one of them loses, it's going to be causing a lot of panic. If both lose, fantastic. But as long as you get rid of one of them, it's going to have a lot of impact on the Tories going forward. They are already, teetering on the edge. The fingers literally clawing into their seats on, white knuckle ride territory of what could happen. And it is going to be very interesting what happens. But if they do lose both those moralities, it's going to be a very, very bad night, a very catastrophic one indeed. So, Downing Street aides do deny that Sunak's fate rests on the outcome of the two high-profile mayoral race, arguing that instead that contest will now be fought on regional issues. Yet, both will inevitably be seen as bellwethers for the Conservatives' fortunes in the general election later this year, as now the test of the party's chances to holding on to voters in the battlegrounds where Labour is targeting the seats. Andy Street, the mayor of West Midlands mayor, has now visibly distanced himself from the party, with very little Conservative branding on his literature, which is green rather than blue, and promotes what he calls Brand Andy, the individual. I love that. Your own party that you are standing for has become so toxic, you don't even want to stand on them. And bear in mind, this was the guy, and he should have followed through on it. This should be brought up. This should, if you are in the West Midlands and you get a chance to sort of, give a question, to Andy Street, you should bring up the fact that you threatened to resign if Sunak cancelled HS2, and he has cancelled HS2. Why have you not resigned? Or why have you not left the Conservative Party? If you are running such, if you are ditching the Conservative branding, why are you still a member of the Conservative Party? Like, there should be a lot of people really hammering home on that fact. I do hope that there are people hammering him on that fact. So, he wants voters to try and focus on his record, including the fallout with Sunak last autumn over the HS2 route, not the performance of the party nationally. One cabinet minister says, wearing his Tory colours very lightly. And remember, that fallout of the HS2 route said he would resign. He would resign if HS2 got scrapped. HS2 got scrapped, he did not resign. And he is now distancing himself. Hit him on that stuff, because he honestly deserves it. Yes, he has teamed up with Andy Burnham to see if they can't get private funding to try and sort this out, but you need government funding to do it. If you haven't got any good government funding to do it, it's never going to happen at all. So back to it. So a Redfield and Walton poll last week did found that he now trails behind the Labour candidate Richard Parker by 14 points, with Parker on 42% of the vote compared to Street's 28% perform. And Reform is, of course, snapping at his heels on 13%. That is going to have a big impact on these races. How much can Reform pull away from these two candidates? If you've got Reform here pulling 13% away, that's quite a big impact. But how much, of course, is going to happen to Ben Houchen? So, speaking of Houchen, Ben Houchen's prospects of winning a second term in the Tees Valleys do seem brighter, not least because he was elected in 2021 with 72% of the vote, compared with just the 27% for Labour, leading to his allies jokingly celebrating the North Korean level result. And bear in mind, he has become the poster boy. He has staked his entire re-election on that Teesport Valley working out and bringing, economic prosperity. Well, everything is currently going wrong building it. We've said before, free ports have very, very dodgy, benefits to bring any proper economic benefits to the area. It doesn't seem like it's really going to work out for the best of him, but that may take a long time for that to sort of sink in. But back to it. So since then, the government has poured over tens of millions of pounds into the region, while Houchen, the poster boy for the party's levelling up policy, remains a local popularity that seems to defy the national mood. Bear in mind, that's not going to last. Once again, the levelling up. Where do you play at Houchen? Go after them on levelling up. because none of these projects, as we've constantly seen, are working. His Freeport, bring up all the scandals that are going on the Freeport. Bring up the fact that Freeports have been tried in this country before and they all failed. Why is this Freeport going to be any different than the other ones? Bring up the fact that time and time again, these Freeports have not added the economic benefit to the areas, not just here in the UK, when we again had Freeports, but of course in other countries that have had Freeports. So, yeah, despite the odds, the Tories are still very nervous precisely because the party's fortunes are so different 4 years on. Houchin faces questions over the handling of Teesworks, the regeneration project on the site of the former Redcar Steelworks. It's not so long ago. The prospects of Ben Houchin losing would be unthinkable, said one local Tory. But Labour are throwing everything at Tees Valley, and the bigger picture isn't easy for us. Sunak's loyalists do remain optimistic that the majority of Tory MPs, while fairly despondent with the current state of play, recognise that getting rid of yet another Prime Minister this side of the general election could be terminal. And that's the only thing that is saving Rishi Sunak, I think, at this point. The idea that most Tory MPs do know we just can't afford to get rid of you. And I think that's the only thing he knows, that he feels safe, that they'll never get rid of him because they know the danger. But if you have such a catastrophic local election, all bets are off. Like, you will get, I think, maybe them not calling for Sunak to go, but they will start calling, hey, let's just have a general election. Let's just get this all over with now, because we know we are going to lose, and we are going to lose catastrophically. Just end this now, Rishi, before it gets even worse. So, number 10 does believe that much of the agitating against the current leadership is the work of a very small number of disgruntled MPs. I don't think so. I don't think it's as small as number 10 thinks. Some who have wanted to have leadership ambitions themselves and want to make very life difficult for the Prime Minister. MPs do not appear to have postponed their infighting until after the local elections, but a disastrous set of results could have other insiders do believe very much focus the minds of the more moderate MPs and boost the number of rebels. With one saying there is a cohort of MPs who are staring down the barrel of complete annihilation at the elections, and they do not feel that they've got anything to lose. They are extremely volatile, said one former minister. And that is the point. If you are an MP and you are staring down the barrel of an electoral defeat on this scale, what have you got to lose? You've got no reason to be loyal to Sunak, because Sunak isn't doing anything to improve your performance. As far as you are concerned, and this came out a couple of weeks as well, that Tory MPs now see their future, or maybe even possible political future, based on the fact of how much did they challenge Sunak? How much did they fight against him during this time? Because that then potentially in the future maybe gives them a bit more street cred, or at least currency to spend in the upcoming sort of Tory civil war. Where does this put them in that? If they have that currency, if they challenge, I was willing to stand up and say that was a bad decision, Rishi, and I was, silenced, etc., and I lost my seat, not because of all the other Tory stuff. They just blame it on Sunak. One thing I can guarantee you that will emerge: the entire Tory narrative for losing will not be based on 14 years of disastrous Tory policy, of Tory rules, of constant mismanagement, of scandals, all that. All that they're going to ignore. What is going to happen is this: they are going to blame everything on Sunak. Why did we lose in 2024? Rishi Sunak. Nothing to do with austerity, nothing to do with our disastrous record, nothing to do with our disastrous policies. No, it was all that Rishi Sunak's fault. Like, I can guarantee you that is the narrative that will come out after the general election. But I'll tell you what, there's going to be a lot of very, very annoyed MPs. And just like there was just so much an outpouring of salt in the last local election, there's going to be one this, and oh boy, it is going to be 10 times more. And then after the general election, well, we're going to have to be careful because we may find ourselves with far too much copium on our hands. But oh, it's going to be delicious to see. It's going to be delicious to see. And oh, what a day. What a lovely day that will be. But anyway, as always, let me know what you think. Have you heard any other local stories around your area with local Tories or anything like that? I'd be fascinated to know and hear them. But leave a comment down below. Remember to hit the like button and the share button on your way out. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.